We don't realize either how much time we're spending in email or how much that time is costing us. But every time you respond to a notification, you are paying a context switching tax. Your brain is switching from the task that you are working on to responding on the email, and it's taking away the value of what you can add to your company. Today, I'm going to show you how I went from living in my inbox to checking my email just twice a week, and how this shift is the exact system that you need to scale before you hire your next employee. Welcome to Mastering Business Flow, the essential podcast for business owners ready to transform their work life. I'm your host, Cord Lundow, a certified productivity and systems expert. I'll help you close that critical CEO gap, the gap between working hard and having real control over your business. We dive into the systems and skills of high-performing CEOs so that you can stop being stuck in daily tasks and start flourishing today. It's time to achieve simpler, higher quality living. Let's start flowing. My first corporate job was the federal government. My entire day was spent around email. As soon as I would walk into the office in the morning, I would sit at my desk, open up my computer, and check my email. And my entire workday was defined by my email. That email was basically my to-do list. I would just leave my email open all day, and that's what I organized my whole work around. And I hoped to get to it by the end of the day. Now, this was in the 90s, so there wasn't quite as much email as we have now. 2 decades later, I was teaching in the public schools, and I needed to have some focused time to do my planning, my grading, and then I also spent 6 hours of my day in front of students, so I was trying to be present with them and not on my computers. Added to that challenge was that we had the requirement to respond to emails within one working day, 24 hours, but not counting the weekends. And most of our internal communications were sent via email. So there were things that I needed in email. I had to check it every day. I got to a system where I would check it for about probably 15 minutes in the morning and 15 minutes in the afternoon when I finished before I left for the day. And so I came through a system of being able to clear out those emails very quickly and efficiently so that I could spend my time on what really mattered. That was the planning and the time in front of the students. Now owning my own business where nobody is telling me that I have to respond within a certain amount of time, I usually only check my email when I am sitting with my children waiting for something, like they're in their sports activity and I'm waiting. I use that time. I don't like to do it when I'm at my desk, and that desk, I have other tasks that I need to do. And so I'm using my email time where I don't need my computer. So let's talk about, why does it matter? Why have I been so ruthless with my email over the past several years? It's because email is an incredibly inefficient way to work. It's not really designed for our efficiency and work. Now, it's maybe a quick and efficient way to get that message out, but on the receiving end and managing your workload, we need to get out of that. And I'm hoping that this podcast, convinces you of that. So let me give you some reasons why you don't want to manage your email or be in your inbox all day like I was at the beginning of my working career. First of all, the notifications themselves that are very distracting. And you could see a notification up to every 11 minutes. Now, that's not just email, that could be from other things, but it can be a lot. And each time that notification pops up and you look at it, it can take you up to 23 minutes to regain your focus. So if you're really trying to work on a serious problem or put together a proposal, you have something that really involves deep focus and brain power, which as a CEO, these are the types of tasks you want to be focused on for at least part of the day. It can take you 23 minutes to regain. Now, if you consider you're getting notifications possibly every 11 minutes, which some statistics show, then you really never have the time to focus and get done what you need to get done. It's extending the time of that project. And I do talk about this in an earlier, which I will link in here. So it seems like a quick 30-second email, but it costs you 24 minutes of strategic growth time. And then if you multiply that emails, that's your whole morning gone. You can't spend the time doing what you need to do to add value to your company. In fact, that time that you're spending in your email could be costing you $150,000 per year just for you, because you could be easily spending 4 hours a day responding to email, which is a typical CEO amount of time. and say you value your time at $150 an hour, which it could be even more than that. And if you work 50 weeks, which is allowing you for 2 weeks of vacation, that's $150,000 just in email. And are you really getting done what matters in that time? A lot of times we think we are, but in truth, email is what we call an external to-do list. These are demands from other people. They are asking you to do these things. These are not things that you want to do for the most part. You have to think about this every time you send out an email. There's probably going to be some sort of response. But I want you to start thinking of email as an external to-do list. It's a to-do list you have out there that other people can just keep adding to without your permission, whatever they want. But as a CEO, you do not want to have other people dictating your to-do list. And also, even in your company, you want to make sure that each person is bringing in their most value to their positions, not spending all that time in email responding to other people's requests. You want them to be able to focus on the work at hand. For example, one company I worked at, they had a designer, and he was so busy responding to emails that he couldn't spend the time that he needed, was deep focus time, to come up with these designs. And that would cost the company their bids. The other thing is there's so much email, we lose hours every day looking for information. It's estimated we lose over 2 hours a day. So that's a full day a week just looking for information. And part of it is because email itself we just get so much of it. Another reason is just because of the way email works. I worked with one organization, and it would drive me crazy because sometimes they would send me a text, sometimes they would send me an email, and there was different text threads, and I never knew where to find the information. And then I have a book club that's sending emails out all the time, and there's, a million different emails. I don't know which thread it's in. And that's just for my personal life. But the idea is that it's not organized by topic. It makes it hard to find the information, just the way email works, because it's coming in chronologically. We really want to change how we start to think about how we're sharing information and thinking about the other side. How do people need this information? And if it's just an email, they're going to spend so much time looking for it, they may totally lose it. So here's some tips to deal with those common problems, right? So the common problems I mentioned were that you are not able to spend that time and focus. You're switching, so you're just losing time from switching the task all the time. The second is just the sheer amount and volume is taking time away from what you should be working on, because it's a list come up by some other people. And also that search trap, that the way email works and is organized, you can't find it. So let's talk about how we're going to deal with this. My number one tip that worked for me from the beginning when I was teaching several years ago was setting aside time to look at that email. And it was very limited time. This goes along with Parkinson's law, which says the task expands to fill the time that you allot for it. Okay, now this may be a little bit confusing, but if you put no timeline on something, you will just keep working and keep working and keep working, which is what we usually do with email. We don't put any kind of time limits on it. But when you put a time limit on something, it makes you work more efficiently and faster. You will make sure that task gets done in time. It may not happen 100%, but you will, just by sitting and saying, I'm only going to check my email for 30 minutes, you're going to make yourself go through it a lot faster, and you're going to deal with it because you feel that pressure to do it, rather than just, I'll be with my email as long as it takes to go through it. Well, then it's basically never done, right? Because also, as soon as you clear out 3 emails, another 5 come in. So ideally, start out by limiting yourself to, say, 2 or 3 30-minute windows a day. I know this is hard for people at first because they're so used to being constantly on. So it's almost like you need a reset for your nervous system to be able to control yourself not to check your email. And so it is hard at first, but just be very intentional about when you get on the email. And it is going to take a lot of self-control to do this, but put it in your calendar and say you're only going to check email these times, in the morning or in the afternoon. You could do 3 times a day, right? One time in the morning, one time in the middle of the day, and one time at the end of the day. And then gradually you want to get rid of those. So hopefully you get down to only, say, once a day. That would be the ideal. Once a day, 30 minutes. And think of all the time you're going to save just by doing that. And I'll show you, I'll share some tips of how you can deal with it and do it that quickly. The other thing is, part of why it's so overwhelming is you just get so many. I opened up somebody's email box, and they had tens of thousands of emails they'd never even looked at. And most of them were, oh, there's a sale. Here's your order update, things that didn't even matter. And they were several years old. And then what happens is that just sheer volume, as we open up our inbox and we see all that email, we don't know what to do. It's taking too much brain power to comprehend what's going on, and we can't focus on what's really important. So one thing I do is I just ruthlessly unsubscribe. I sign up for a ton of mailing lists. A lot of times it's because they look like something interesting. I want to see something about their company or see how they do their newsletter, because I also make a newsletter. But then after I get it a couple of times and look at it, I decide whether or not it's something I want to keep. And it's also good for the companies. You want people to unsubscribe from your email, and you want to, if you're not going to read the emails, you need to unsubscribe, because it improves their deliverability if people are receiving the email who wants to. So I tell people on my list all the time to unsubscribe if they're not opening it, because you want only people who are opening it to be receiving your email. And you only want to be receiving that because you don't need these extra ones in your box. It's just sheer volume. It's estimated that 80% of email volume comes from 20% of the contacts that mean the least to you. That whole Pareto principle, right? So it's newsletters, things that you're CC'd on, or low-level inquiries, things that don't really matter. So that's the first thing, is just get rid of all these, or unsubscribe. Don't mark them as spam, because they aren't spam. You signed up for them at one point. And if you mark them as spam, that hurts their deliverability in the future. So unsubscribe if it's a legitimate company with the legitimate email setup. You will be able to easily unsubscribe. If you can't, then you can spam them because they're not following proper practices. Okay, the next thing is inbox zero. Now, we've probably mostly heard about inbox zero. Maybe you get stressed out, or maybe you're really proud that you have an inbox zero. I have actually developed, or now adhere to, more of an inbox zero-ish. I've got less than 20 messages in my inbox, but they are ones that I know I still need to do something with. Maybe it's just I need to look at it and pull out some information from these newsletters I know I want to read, and they have valuable information. So I will leave them in there until I've done that. And sometimes if they've sat there too long and I haven't done it, I just delete them anyway, but I'm going to get to that in a minute. But basically, each time you open your inbox, you don't want to have that much in there. And you want it to be something that is relevant, something that you need to do. So how do we do this? How do we go through the email inbox? And this is what you would do in your 20 minutes or 30 minutes or however much time that you need. And I usually do this, and even I can do it in like 10 minutes. So the first thing you do is just quickly scan your inbox, and you can either delete or archive. Now, archive is a great feature because we have almost limitless space, and you can always buy more space if you need it. And that way you don't have to be scared that you're going to lose that information. You just click that archive button. It's in there. You can search it. You can find it later. And you want to do this delete is something you'll never need again. If you're not sure, just archive it, and it's not going to bother you. But this means that there's nothing you need to do with this email. It's just information you want to have available to look for if you need later. The second thing is defer or snooze. So you can take an email, and if you can't deal with it now, but it's something you need to deal with, you can just snooze it for a time that you are going to come up with it, then it won't be in your inbox, and it'll show up in your inbox when you're ready to deal with it. The other thing that's nice about like Gmail is you can make it into a task if you're using the task feature on the Google Workspace. And you could say, create a task with this email and put it for a date and a time. If you put it exactly on your calendar when you're going to do it, you're going to be much more likely. Don't just have this generic to-do list of a million things, because our to-do lists are infinite, right? And then you'll never get it done. But if you actually put it on your calendar, you're going to be a lot more likely to do that. And you can do that directly from Gmail. I don't know as much about Microsoft Office because I don't use them anymore. The other thing you want to do is just reply. Like whatever it is, take the action that you need to do if it's, something quick. But otherwise, schedule it as that time that I talked about. And then I want you to think about if it's an internal or an external communication. I have found that, external communications are going to be very different from our internal, because a lot of time our internal communications, it's about a project or something that's ongoing. So that's where you need those kinds of threads around a topic. And those are the ones that are the hardest to find when they're in email. You want to make sure you're using internal communication whatever you're saying in the place that you want it. So if it's a topic that you're discussing normally, you can make some kind of chat group around that topic or area. If it is around a project, or say there's a document, like if I use ClickUp or Google Docs, make the comments in the document. Let's not send an email about it, because then you're switching right there between the document or the project management software and the email. Put the comments and the conversation where you need it. And in general, you want to have your team not be using email at all, because that'll help you stay away from email and it'll keep you to where it's relevant information. Next thing, forget about folders. In general, it's a lot faster to use the search feature on email than it is the folders, because the folders, you have to open multiple folders. And again, there's the whole way of it being chronological instead of by topic. So if you just do search, and maybe you can remember topic, keyword, date, range, if there was an attachment, you can put in all kinds of filters for that. This is going to save you a lot of time. It's so much faster than looking in the folders. Now, there could be some folders that are helpful for you. Like I use it for, say, orders or upcoming events, or maybe there is one project that I'm working on with a client. I may make an email folder for them, and everything related to them goes in that folder. But I would still end up using the search button most of the time. And I would only go to the folder when I can't find it with search, because it is faster. Now, one of your issues may be wanting to respond to a message as soon as it comes. According to a survey done by Adobe, 50% of people feel that they need to respond to an email within an hour, but only 15% of senders actually expect a response quickly. You feel that pressure because they've asked you to do something or asked a question or something like that. And so you feel like I've got to respond quickly or they're not going to like me or something. But you are killing yourself and your potential profits by responding to every email as soon as it comes, again, because of the amount of time you lose by switching. So one thing you can do for this is set up an autoresponder. This is the vacation auto response. And that auto response can be something like, I check emails at 10 a.m. and 4 p.m. to ensure I'm giving my clients my full focus. If there's an emergency, please contact, and then you could list somebody else. Or you could say, please use my cell phone if you have it, because right there you may have filtered out people that don't have it. You have an alternative way if there's something more urgent. But in all honesty, I find that there's very little that's urgent. And frankly, people should be using another means of communication if it's urgent. This is going to be a tangent, but in my neighborhood, somebody posted on Facebook group to ask what to do because their child had been bitten by a copperhead. That's an example of improper communication. And I feel like that's the same with email. Putting a Facebook post is not for quick answers, right? Go to the emergency room for your child to get the anti-venom. But we do the same with email. We're posting on there just because it's what we're used to using without thinking about the urgency or the timeliness. So I would say a call or a text would be for a quicker. First is call, then is text, then is email. Not everybody uses it the same way, but at least in your team and in your company, you want to get everybody thinking the same way when they're going to use which method. But don't feel guilty about not responding to them right away. And if you do, make sure you have that autoresponder so that they know that you are getting back to them, and say that you will get back to them within 24 working hours or something like that. Okay, snippets and templates. That is another way to save yourself a lot of time. A lot of email programs now have this built to end. For example, if you're getting customer questions or questions about your service, or they're having a certain kind of issue, you can have some sort of template saved that you can automatically respond with. I'm not saying that it's an auto response, but it's like a block of text that you've saved, and then you can just copy and paste it in the email, and then you can personalize around it. In my CRM, I can save snippets. There's also an app called Text Blaze that I use a lot because it works no matter what window I'm in. I can just copy and paste it, and all I have to do is right click actually. And to prevent those questions in the first place, make sure you have a pretty thorough FAQ on your website so you can always send them to there, or they may look at your website first and find the answer before and it may prevent the questions, or you can just link them to your website. The other thing is with your team, think about where you need the message, right? So as I said before, we don't really want to have our teams using email for internal communications. And we want to think about where it is that we want that. A lot of times we're working on a project or a document or something like that. We want to keep all the comments about that project or document in there. So for example, with any document, whether it be Word or Google Docs, there's a comment feature so everybody can give their feedback in there. ClickUp is great with projects and tasks, how you can see all the comments and all the conversation and documents that people share related to the project. So I highly recommend keeping all your teams around whatever it is that you're working on. So if they're talking about that work, that project, keep the conversations tied to the project, because that's where you need it, right? When you're in the project and looking at it, that's where you need that information. You don't want to have people leave that project and go searching. You're going to keep them there so that they're not wasting that time by switching. It also keeps that trail and that history in one place that's very searchable and it's centralized. Now, this is the nuclear option that you're going to do just to deal with your overwhelm right now that's quicker. You're just going to go to your email right now, and anything that's older than 30 days that you haven't dealt with, that means it's probably not that important, just click archive on all those. You're not deleting them. They're still there. You can find them if you need to. But if you haven't gotten to them yet, chances are you're not getting to them. At least there's a very low probability. So just hit archive, and if it's really important, they will get back to you. There's one thing, the most important thing that I want you to do is just turn off email notifications. Turn them off on your computer, turn them off on your phone, and then just set a regular time to check your email. If you need to start with 3 times 30 minutes a day, start there and then try to whittle it down, ideally so you can get to once a day. But if you don't, that's fine. If you're in sales, you may need to be in there more because that is your focus. Don't worry about that. But I really want you to set that regular time and limit yourself to that time. Make yourself get off at the end of that time that you set. So if you set 30 minutes, get off after 30 minutes. And remember, you can do that reply, archive, or snooze. So just imagine, though, if you start doing this and you're spending now, instead of all this time being sucked into different conversations in email or looking for information in email, you're able to spend 4 hours on your deep focus work without any interruptions. Think about the impact that's going to have on your business if you can do that, because you're finally leading your business. You've gotten the reins and you're in control rather than that external to-do list from whoever else is sending you stuff. Most business owners know they need to do this, but they lack the systems to put it and make it stick. They're just running in reactive mode instead of being proactive and intentional. They're afraid that something is going to fall through the cracks. If you are ready to stop playing inbox defense and start building a scalable machine, come talk to me. I help business owners implement these exact systems, and we can get your time back. You can sign up for my free business growth course to get started with some of these systems that will save you time and grow your business. Check out the full show notes at masteringbusinessflow.com for all the details and the links. Thank you for listening.